Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Tuesday morning for our Power Automate and RPA webinar. We're absolutely delighted to be here talking to you all today. Just as an introduction, my name's Jo McGovern. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Marra. We are a tech consultancy specialising in Power Platform. We're based up in Gateshead and work with large enterprises, public sector organisations, charities and SMEs. So just to let you all know what we'll be covering today. Firstly, the value of RPA, how RPA offers the ability for faster implementation and higher return on investment with minimal disruption to your IT. Then we'll talk a little bit about driving business value through the automation of repetitive tasks to boost efficiencies and employee satisfaction across your organisation. We'll talk a little bit more around how you uncover the RPA opportunities, whether that's how you get started or where you start. We're here today to provide guidance on where best to focus in order to maximise the value. There's a little bit in the presentation about an essential preparation checklist to really set you up for success for your automation initiatives. There's some lessons learned from a real and relevant automation project. And then also we'll touch towards the end on return on investment and how to recognise and quantify this for your organisation. If that's not what you're expecting this morning, now's your opportunity to leave the call, but hopefully you'll all stay around. If you do have any questions, then please feel free to put them in the Q&A function and we'll take some time at the end to answer. This session will also be recorded, so if you do need to leave early, we'll be sure to send it around afterwards. Before we dive into the content, let's do some more introductions. Today, we're joined by our colleagues at Microsoft, who I'll let introduce themselves and say a few words. Over to you, Aoife.
Brilliant. Thanks a million, Jo, and thanks everyone for attending. My name is Aoife Dempsey and I'm a solution specialist at Microsoft, and I'm joined here with Owen Rackard, who I'll pass over to in a couple of minutes. But we just wanted to touch on kind of the high level overview of today's session. So when it comes to scaling automation in complex environments like councils, we believe that Microsoft brings something truly different to the table. And that's because Power Automate isn't just another tool, it's part of a broader platform your teams already use. So whether that's Microsoft 365, Dynamics, Azure or Teams, that means less friction, faster adoption and real impact without having to rip and replace your existing systems that you've worked so hard to put into place. And from a security and compliance perspective, as with all Microsoft products, that's absolutely a non-negotiable and always our first priority. Automation is enterprise ready from day one with built-in controlled, robust data governance and compliance features trusted across the public sector and by your peers. And finally, just to touch on the workforce and the change management piece, we understand the importance of that, and we are not here to replace jobs, and that is something really important to stress and highlight. We're here to empower your teams and increase their bandwidth. So with Power Automate's low-code tools, everyone from your IT teams to your frontline staffs can build solutions that solve their day-to-day challenges. It's about freeing up their time for higher value work, not automating for the sake of it. So I can pass over to Owen, who's going to carry on with the next 2 points.
Thank you very much, Aoife, and I hope you're all having a fantastic Tuesday morning. It's sunny here in Dublin, so there's no complaints from my end. But I know I've probably seen a lot of you before, and I've worked with some of you before as well. As Aoife mentioned, my name is Owen. I work as a business applications specialist here at Microsoft, purely covering the public sector. I've been working in this role for almost 2 years now, covering everything within a Dynamics point of view, but more importantly, covering everything within a Power Platform perspective. So Power Apps, Power Automate, which obviously we'll be talking about today, and Copilot Studio. So as Aoife mentioned, there's a couple of different things that are of key importance to likes of data handling and security, workforce training and change management, but also efficiency and service delivery. As we all know, automation can significantly reduce the burden on public sector teams, whether it's processing housing benefits, handling FOI requests, or managing repetitive data entry. We've seen councils improve turnaround times, reduce errors, and free up staff to focus on frontline services and strategic work. So that's the key kind of takeaway. It's freeing up staff to kind of work on more important tasks and more complex tasks. We've also had teams overwhelmed by high volumes of benefits, claims, and different kind of casework, which I know is a key aspect of all kind of public sector organizations. And within this, there's so many things that Power Automate can automate. But the challenge is sometimes not knowing where to start, because I was even chatting to a council, I said 2 to 3 weeks ago, and they said that they have over 100 use cases of Power Automate, but they just don't know where it is best to start. So hopefully after today's discussion, we'll be a bit closer to that. So yeah, that's my 10 pence. Thanks very much, and I'll pass over to Luke.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I'm Luke, and it's brilliant to be here to talk to you all about RPA today. A quick bit of background about me. My journey through tech has primarily been software development, but now with more of a focus on technical leadership and digital strategy. I've been working with Power Platform for a number of years and have recently celebrated my 2-year anniversary with Marra. And it's been an incredibly passionate time, and I've been fortunate to have been involved in many initiatives with such strong purposes, one of which you'll hear more about later on. So let's get started. I'd like to jump right into it and start by making sure that we're all on the same page when it comes to RPA. Robotic Process Automation, or RPA, is a type of automation where bots are mimicking people using computers to complete their tasks and their workflows. And they do this by interacting with systems and user interfaces. It's great for repetitive tasks and for bridging the process gaps between teams. And the example I would give is, imagine someone logging in and posting a message to LinkedIn. They have to open a web browser, go to LinkedIn, log in, fill out the message, and finally post the message. Now imagine that a robot is doing it for you instead, and all you would give the bot is the message you would like to post. That's RPA. Comparing with DPA, or Digital Process Automation, DPA tends to result in automations that happen in the background or in digital experiences for people to use, like websites and apps. Imagine a web store, and when a user places an order, automation processes that order, but it may also integrate with finance systems to take payment. The magic that happens once a user places an order on the site would be DPA, but we might also have automation testing that navigates to the site to place an order and test everything works as expected. And that bit would be RPA. If we look at these different types of automations in a comparison chart, we can clearly see the differences. And today I'll be focusing on RPA. And in Power Platform, this is by using Power Automate Desktop. Now, Power Automate Cloud is great at orchestrating desktop flows by automating when desktop flows are executed, but we won't be discussing Power Automate Cloud any further in this webinar. And finally, some may have heard of Business Process Automation, BPA, and no worries if you haven't. All you really need to know is that BPA is effectively bringing RPA and DPA together. Let's look at the benefits of RPA solutions that you'll want to consider when deciding to invest. And let's start with how reliable they are. Because they're rules-based, because they follow clear pathways, they are deterministic. And that means we can predict with certainty the automation's outcome. We can be confident in what our automation is doing and how it is doing it. And we can be confident that it will be consistent every time it runs. And we can also be confident that the automation will scale as the size of your operations increases as well. Now let's consider how impactful they are. RPA focuses on people and automating their workflows, and so RPA is great for fostering a culture of collaboration as it puts the right people at the heart of the automation you're building. And this is going to enable you to create the best automations for you. And because RPA targets frequent tasks and workflows, you know it's going to impact the efficiency of your organization as well. And what this means is higher productivity for your teams and better cost efficiency for your operations. And because of that, you'll love to automate tasks and workflows that will grow in volume over time, and because the people that are performing the task are at the heart of building the automation, you know it's fit for purpose, and because it's automated, you know it's going to scale. And you'll love to automate workflows that enable your people to focus on high-value initiatives. And because you've targeted things that happen often, you know you're saving people's time. Everyone wants to do their best and to give their best. And one of the most common benefits we hear from working with people on RPA solutions is that people are so much more motivated and engaged because they can move away from the less exciting, repetitive work, and they can focus on the more exciting, higher value opportunities that they never had the time to pursue. Now we know what RPA is, now we know what benefits RPA can bring, let's think more strategic. And the best way to do that is to think more about what RPA is used for. Now, I like to use the analogy of a workman's tool belt. It's another tool we have at our disposal, but we need to make sure we know how to use it properly to reach our full potential. So where is RPA happy? RPA is happy when workflows are rules-based, which is to say workflows have clear if this, then that pathways. RPA is happy when workflows are repetitive and frequent, which we also love because that means a bigger return on investment. RPA is really happy when it doesn't need human intuition, which links very strongly to being rules-based. And finally, RPA loves workflows that benefit from being consistent in their output, their outcome, or both. Imagine a complaints process for a bank, for example, where the person processing the complaint decides how much compensation that someone would receive, but it's based on how strongly that person complained. That's probably not a good candidate for RPA automation because it requires human intuition. However, if you imagine a complaints process where the complaint is related to the opening of a new account, and if the person is a new customer, then they will always receive £20 in compensation. RPA is going to love automating that. Okay, so we understand our tool. Where can we find great opportunities? Where can we start creating value? And this is a question Marra gets often. It's not uncommon for leaders of teams or leaders of teams to have oversight of many processes and many workflows. And that can make it challenging to uncover opportunities in your organization, but it can also make it challenging to decide which ones to prioritize. Here at Marra, we frequently work with organizations through something we call strategic consultancy, and that's where we help make sense of your processes and workflows to create a backlog of opportunities with you. What I would like to do now is walk you through the types of questions that we might ask through strategic consultancy that you can take away today and immediately action and start thinking about. Firstly, what's important to you? Do you want to immediately focus mission-critical workflows because there are time-bound risks you need to mitigate? Perhaps you want to focus on low-hanging fruit that are quicker and easier to build confidence with RPA before maturing further. Maybe your goal is to link RPA to a broader business strategy, such as digital transformation, simplification of your operations, or even removal of historic software licenses. But whatever is important to you, identify it and be honest about it. And this is going to help you when prioritizing your opportunities by linking them to what's important to your organization. And once you're clear on that, then you can go hunting. And when we're hunting, I like to ask a series of questions I consider signals to help home in on great RPA opportunities. And these again are questions you can take away today and start to take action to help you identify the underlying valuable tasks and workflows waiting to be automated. Firstly, where are your teams using installed software? And that might be Microsoft Office products or other Windows applications that people are using in their day-to-day roles. But if you can identify these, you can look at how often they're used and for what purpose. Next, where are your teams regularly performing file-based work? teams are frequently collaborating on network drives, which is a great place to identify workflows for automation. And this is especially true of cross-team workflows where files will move from team to team. Have a think, where are you using software services? Almost all organizations will be using some sort of software as a service, and this is a third-party product that we've bought in that people in your organization can use to perform their tasks. Find out what software your teams are using, then find out the features your teams use the most to identify RPA opportunities. Have a think. Are your teams allocating tasks to people in Work Queues anywhere? These tend to be prime candidates for frequent rules-based tasks, and if you can find these, you've probably found a great opportunity. And finally, how are your people supporting your customers? So customer support roles tend to have top lists of frequent common tasks that they perform. They're also usually a focus for efficiency in organizations, so see where you can help support them with RPA. And with the workflows you uncover, robotic process automation could be the answer in many of these scenarios, but the question is, what might you find? Now, I know there are a lot of councils represented here today, so I hope the following is a good mix for both councils and private organizations. I talked about customer services, while help desk workflows are also similar. Processing payrolls is repetitive and frequent. Perhaps digital instant reporting or compliance monitoring, touring your estate. Marketing campaigns is a frequent one, or perhaps asset management. And this might be the loaning of assets and reconciliating stock, which could be computers, tablets, or even on-site equipment. Expenses, very rules-based, often manually processed. Recruitment and onboarding, housing benefits, invoice processing. Maybe inventory ordering, using RPA to automatically place new orders when stock levels require it. Planning applications is very rules-based, lots of tasks and lots of checkpoints. There's a great chance to increase productivity here. Reviewing grants and funding, even managing housing. So using systems to manage housing, rent, visits, and repairs. Council tax processing, very similar to housing benefits and usually tightly linked. Procurement. And finally, managing public records. And this is often another example where people are performing frequent manual tasks, updating internal records and systems. Now, I've talked through the value of RPA and where RPA shines and how to help uncover great opportunities for automation. So let's say that you've taken all this wonderful information on board and you're about to start an RPA project that you're super excited for. The question is, how can you give yourself the best chance of success? And my answer to that is to prepare and ready yourselves as much as possible, because the less ready you are, the higher the risk of failure becomes, and the more ready you are, the higher the value you'll be able to reap. And with that in mind, my number one tip for everyone here today when preparing for your project is this: you don't know your process. Regardless of how much you think you know, or how much you do know, take the position that you know nothing about the process that you're about to automate. Challenge everything, remove all assumptions, be curious, and explore. And you can see here that I have a checklist for you here to help. I've said people are at the heart of RPA, so let's start there. Have a think about who is involved. How many people, how many teams, who has a stake in the project? And these may be the people that perform the tasks, or they may be team leaders or IT people who will be supporting or maintaining your automation. But find out who is involved and clearly identify what are their roles. Why are they involved and what is their stake? Have a think about their journeys. Each person in their role will have a unique part to play in the workflow that you're targeting. Clearly identify the steps, the tasks, and the order in which people perform their work. Have a think about who is responsible, but also have a think about who is accountable. And with this information, you should have a clear view of the people you need to be involved in your project. The people who really know the processes and the workflows you're targeting, and most importantly, the people to listen to. And with that in mind, identify who are your subject matter experts. Who do you consider to be the engaged people that you're going to collaborate with? Secondly, let's look at what you want to automate. What workflows are you going to target? And there may be one or many that form your overall process. Decide exactly what it is that you're targeting, and then make sure you clearly know the boundaries of those workflows. Where do they begin and when do they finish? Map these to the people and their roles and the user journeys from before. Have a think about what systems are used, because you're going to need to know exactly which systems you need to build automation around to scope and estimate your project effectively. Are there any dependencies of your workflows? Make sure you clearly understand the impact and how your automation will fit in with the wider organization. And importantly, get all of this documented. Get it all written down and make sure that your stakeholders are aligned, because lastly, you need to make sure, does everyone do it the same way? Now, I can all but guarantee you that if you have people in a team that share tasks, someone will be doing something differently. So you need to agree exactly how the automation should work and bring everything together so far to make sure there's no ambiguity and no stone left unturned. A difference of opinion, understanding, or changing requirements discovered too late, it will cause chaos for your automation. And finally, the excellence list. Now, those that have been in Power Platform for some time will probably be familiar with Center of Excellence, and that's all about guiding the adoption and governance of Power Platform. Organizations will often have central hubs of expertise where they promote innovation and best practice. And here at Marra, we provide a Center of Excellence offering, working with organizations to build in and embed Power Platform excellence. So what I've done is to take inspiration from some of the guiding pillars from our Center of Excellence offering to build into this checklist today. Have a think about, how will you measure success? Can you identify clear metrics or outcomes that you're looking to achieve? And have a think about, how will this be governed? Think back to your people and think, who will govern this? How does the automation need to be built to fit in with your governance model? And also, what governance may need to be put in place? How will this be secured? Think about the people that need access to your automations and follow the principle of least privilege there. Think about your systems and the credentials you'll need to manage, like passwords, and what's that going to look like? And I hate to mention it, but I wouldn't be responsible if I didn't. But what's your continuity plan if there's an outage? And one of the fortunate advantages of RPA is that in many cases, your fallback can be reverting to your existing process today. Have a think about who's going to maintain this. So I touched on this in the people checklist, but what do they need to take successful stewardship of your solution? And lastly, are you changing your process? Are you automating your manual tasks like for like, or are you analyzing and looking for improvements as part of your initiative? Now, both are fantastic choices, although the latter is a bit more complicated, but make sure you're clear on your scope and your expectations. And remember to challenge everything, remove all assumptions, be curious, and explore. Be prepared. I would now like to walk through with you all a real-world use case of an RPA project in action. Now, Marra worked with one of the larger county councils, and I was privileged to lead the technical aspects of this project. The benefits team at this council faced a daily time-consuming task. Using the NEC Revenue and Benefits System, which for those who aren't familiar is a web-based software as a service app, they meticulously reviewed a vast number of claimant accounts manually. And this process was labor-intensive, and susceptible to human error. And the downside of this is that it often led to delays or inaccuracies in benefit rebates. Now, if you think about what RPA loves, this checked all the boxes. The process is rules-based, is repetitive and happens frequently, daily in this case. It doesn't need human intuition or require grey area decision-making, and it benefits from consistency to ensure that people are getting the right support that they need. If we think about the challenges that this council was seeing, as the number of benefit claims continued to rise, the team found themselves increasingly overwhelmed, and they needed a solution that would streamline their interactions with the NEC system to help reduce the overhead on people in the team, require a reduction in the need for manual intervention as they expected volumes to rise, and they knew that there are periodic spikes in claims to process, and to allow the benefits officers to focus on more critical activities, and that's going to allow them to better support the citizens in their community. And if you think back to the value of RPA that I discussed earlier, this is a prime textbook opportunity. So how did Marra help to resolve these challenges? To help, we worked with the council and we used Power BI analysis to inform feasibility and prioritization of what to automate. And with product managers, SMEs and stakeholders, we collaborated to define the current people and the processes involved. And we used Power Automate desktop flows, creating more efficient automated workflows to perform the manual tasks of the benefits officers reviewing and processing those claimant benefits. By working with Marra, the council achieved measurable improvements. Automation led to consistent and efficient remediation time when processing claimant benefits, freeing the benefits team of having to perform these manually and saving time. Not only automating daily claims, but also using RPA to tackle a backlog that needed to be processed. Because outcomes are now faster and more consistent, citizens are supported sooner. And benefits team staff are now empowered with improved skills, and after working with us are familiar with methodologies and ways of working to help them extend the automation even further in future. Now, overall, this was an incredibly positive engagement with fantastic outcomes, and I'm proud of the council, I'm proud of Marra, and I'm proud of myself for the difference that we were able to make with RPA. However, we did encounter some challenges, and I want all of you to learn from our experience. So I'm going to return to our preparation checklist, and let me show you where we did well. We clearly understood the roles and the people's journeys. We had fantastic SMEs who were a pleasure to work with. We knew exactly what workflows we were targeting, and we knew the system. We knew the cross-team dependencies of the workflows. We had clear measures for success, had a close relationship with the council's IT team responsible for governing and maintaining the solution, and we had a clear strategy for implementation of securing data and passwords. But let me show you where we encountered challenges and where we could have improved. The team did a great job at documenting the steps in their workflows. However, later on as we were building the automation, we found instances where the documentation wasn't quite right. And what we learned was some people had different approaches for processing claims, and this caused some confusion. Now, this confusion did have an impact on the time it took us to build the automations, but we all worked through this together and we reached fantastic outcomes overall. And the way we achieved this is by revisiting our documentation. We worked with our SMEs to add an additional person's perspective, and we realigned on the exact consistent steps required for the automation to work. And so I hope that you all take away the importance of preparation and readiness, and that you can use this checklist to learn from our experiences to make your RPA investments a glaring success. And that segues nicely into return on investment. So return on investment is incredibly important to any initiative, and we can calculate that by taking our measures of success from the preparation checklist and use it to see the difference that's been made. Now, in many cases, there is an immediate direct cost-saving return on investment. And for our work with the NEC revenue and benefit system, we were able to calculate how long each different claim workflow took manually, the salary costings of the roles performing those workflows, and the amount of claims that RPA automation processed to calculate the financial saving RPA automation generated. But it's also worth considering less direct cost savings as well. For example, your effective RPA solution could alter your recruitment strategy, as you no longer need to hire additional people as the automation can scale instead. And because of that, it's equally important to look to future growth when calculating financial return on investment. Now, tied with this, let me ask you all a question. What's the cost of doing nothing? Look at the risks and the issues your teams identify in their workflows, because return on investment is equally mitigating that impact, and reducing or eliminating risks is a fantastic measure of success. And the final category, the opportunity to focus on something else. Freeing up people's time to focus on other initiatives is a step on the staircase to greater return on investment that RPA offers. Every benefit realized from those other initiatives is because your RPA automation made it possible to enable your people and your teams to do more and increase productivity. And that too can be measured. So my last tips for you today are to help maximize your return on investment. Identify high-value processes by focusing on automating tasks that offer the highest returns. Measure quality improvements by tracking error reduction and operational improvements. And monitor productivity by assessing how RPA impacts your team's productivity and satisfaction. Looking to the future of what RPA is bringing, there's plenty to stay excited about when it comes to Power Automate Desktop. There's been some remarkable announcements recently, with plenty more in the pipeline, and I would like to go through a few of them now. Please don't worry if you aren't familiar with everything that I'm about to talk through, as these topics cover many different perspectives of those interested in automating Power Automate Desktop solutions. From an integrations view, Azure Key Vault for Power Automate Desktop has recently been announced, and this brings direct support for secrets management when developing flows. And this will be a powerful option to consider how automations will be secured from the preparation checklist. And within the last week or two, Microsoft has just announced integration between Copilot and UiPath, which is another RPA platform, for further automation integration. Now, this is fantastic for agentic orchestration of UiPath flows in Power Platform, or as another potential starting point for migrating to Power Automate Desktop. And one of Power Platform's core strengths is its ability to integrate with many systems and services, and it continues to improve here all the time. In terms of Designer AI, Copilot is embedded into the Power Automate Desktop development experience, and that allows for increased productivity when building automations and is getting better and more useful all the time. Operationally, Power Automate has some fantastic features when it comes to traceability of your RPA solutions and the actions performed. And on the horizon for Power Automate Desktop is the ability for flows to self-heal by handling cases where UI elements can't be found. So during runtime of flows, it will be possible to leverage AI to locate and select elements on screen as a fallback, and those will automatically be used in future executions. Testing in Power Automate is in the process of being turbocharged with new test cases feature, and this is giving stronger tools to Power Automate Desktop users to better validate their flows and make sure everything will run as planned. And finally, agentic RPA is taking Power Automate Desktop headlines by storm now, as Microsoft continue to research and roll out into early access preview the ability for Copilot to dynamically perform RPA actions. So this one's incredibly early days, but just like the rest of AI, it's moving fast. And just imagine a world where you can say, hey Copilot, where's the cheapest place to go on holiday this summer? And it performs an RPA search to go to comparison sites and airlines to give you recommendations and live prices. So this is a feature called computer use in Copilot Studio, and this is further bridging RPA, Power Automate Desktop, and Copilot together. Now, I've come to the end of the content that I have for you all today, but I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for your time. And please remember to send through any of the questions that you may have, because we're certainly looking forward to answering them, and the Q&A time is soon approaching. Before I pass back to our host, Joe, let's quickly recap what I've covered today. I've covered the value of RPA and how it can result in higher productivity for your teams and better cost efficiency for your operations. We've looked at how to uncover RPA opportunities, including approaches from Marra's strategic consultancy offering that you can use to help identify and prioritize projects. I've shared an essential preparation checklist to help prepare for RPA projects. And remember, be curious and explore. And we've examined a real-life project with genuine challenges and results. Finally, I've covered return on investment with a focus on identifying financial cost savings and RPA being the first step on the staircase to even greater benefits. And one last time from me, a huge thank you to everyone who has attended or is watching this recording. Thank you very much,